cavalcade of personalities filling the ring, right?
Mm-hmm. It's
one
basically
by one, everyone gets their music, their entrance, and a moment to walk down the ramp and fill the ring. They all start shaking each other's hands at a point where, like, gets a bit timely.
Yeah.
Who's out there, Jack?
And it was like, it was nice to see, but then, afterwards they all cleared the ring when the video package showed up, so it kind of made you think, well, what was the point? But then again, while I was thinking about it, I was like, it makes sense. They're going to show you who was very influential and a big part of Undertaker's career.
Mm-hmm.
But because of Undertaker and knowing how old school he is, he wasn't going to break the character,
Right.
He just wanted to show you, these are the people that were a part of my career, especially behind the scenes, Okay. Behind the scene for him. And, and that was it. He wasn't going to have any interaction with them because, he cares that much about the character still,
I think a lot of people were expecting him to break character last night, and spoiler alert, he didn't. And people suspect that, when we all are able to be together in a big arena and we do a more proper Hall of Fame ceremony, that must be when we get, an Undertaker in a tux and a bolo tie talking human.
Yeah. I think too many people were kind of expecting it to be like when Ric Flair first retired,
My brother, again, he's piped up about twice up to this point. He, again, here now says, this isn't as good as Ric Flair's send-off. And it's so funny for him to have held that memory so tightly. And he's absolutely right to what you just said.
Yeah. But it was still good to see, and especially like it showed, like this was their kind of way of breaking character since they knew the Undertaker wouldn't want to, It was showing you, and like the commentary again played it up real well. They explained, why each and every person was influential, Right. I bet when people saw the Godwins, they were like, huh? What part did they play? But they mentioned it, One of them played Midian in the Ministry of Darkness. And together, both of them were a part of Undertaker's backstage clique, BSK.
Right. They get a shout out in the Stone Cold interview after the show as well.
Yeah, and it was the same thing. What does Savio Vega and the Godfather have to do with the Undertaker? They're two of his closest friends who, again, were in his backstage clique known as the BSK. Kane, Kayfabe was his brother. Triple H, Ric Flair, and Shawn Michaels were all influential on him, especially Michaels and Triple H in some of his best matches. Flair is an industry great, which is why he influenced him.
We saw a whole ring full of legends. Who was missing in your eyes?
So, because I know about the BSK and stuff, which is again Undertaker's bicycle, I knew Yokozuna was missing. Because again, he
got a shout out in the interview.
Yeah, he got a shout out in the interview, and the commentary team also said, the late great Yokozuna, if he was here, he would have most likely been there. Mr. Fuji as well, and we later see Paul Bearer. We see them
for
referencing.
Sure. Yeah.
Because that was definitely the biggest person in the Undertaker's career.
Yeah, but you got his opponents like Michaels out there. Jeff Hardy was out there, as a guy who was really built up through his feud with The Undertaker. But, I'm thinking like Hogan's not out there, you think probably, well, you know what? I think you mentioned that this is all people Undertaker liked and respected, and you know what I mean? Like, so it was, I thought, worthwhile just to kind of keep note of who didn't get the invite. The Rock, somebody who was auspiciously missing from the entire affair. Yeah. Stone Cold interviewed him, Triple H in the ring, but The Rock, gosh, didn't even send a Ken Shamrock-like video? Come on now.
Yeah, but so we get that, and then they just do this amazing video package covering all 30 years of The Undertaker.
No one does it better than the WWE than video packages.
Yeah. And, they run down the WrestleMania, and I'm really glad, again, it's still the salt in me, I'm really glad they didn't show Lesnar or Reigns being victorious over him at WrestleMania. They focused on these were the victories he had,
Yeah.
And like they focused on showing that change from his character from the beginning all the way to the end, you know. They really showed the development. They really showed how he continued to change his character, which is what's truly unique about the Undertaker.
And
you don't last 30 years in the business being the same person each and every time, you know.
And like it was integral. I don't know if there was ever a conversation, but it was absolutely integral to his success and longevity that when he came out on a motorcycle dressed in denim and a bandana, that they didn't hesitate at all to remind the audience that's the Undertaker. He wasn't going to go by any other name. That's the Undertaker, right? And he just built up a decade's worth of credibility in this character that we were just like, yeah, that's the Undertaker.
Yeah.
I think he's dead. Is he still dead? Does he have powers? And the second he brings them back, we all go, yeah, he still has powers. He always had them.
Yeah. And, you know, it's even something he mentioned in the Last Ride documentary that when he implemented that character, he still made sure to keep certain aspects of the dead man to show people that it's a character change, but at the same time, he's still the Undertaker, you know?
I remember because he would do just the littlest things, Jack, like just rolling his eyes back in a fit of frustration. You go, whoa.
Yeah. But so then the video package ends, and you get the one true man that I guess you could say has really been influential in the career of The Undertaker. It's the one man he stayed loyal to for all these 30 years. They've always mentioned it. When everyone else left, he was the one that stayed. So Vince McMahon appears in the ring. And this is the first time seeing Vince McMahon in a while. You know?
Right.
Vince McMahon comes in and he just kind of gives like a small little speech, you know, thanking him for everything and then introducing him so he can come down to the ring. And you can really tell, you know, the emotion because it really looked like Vince and it really sounded like Vince was about to like a bit like cry, break down a bit, you know. And rightfully so, because as someone mentioned, you know, this is kind of like one of his last few cornerstones of his business.
And no, I definitely got that as well, Jack. This was as close to crying since like I think maybe like Eddie Guerrero's passing that we've ever seen this guy get on camera.
Yeah.
And you think, you know, this was brought up in the Stone Cold interview. This is a guy who has more or less talked Undertaker out of doing this for so long. Why hasn't the Undertaker retired yet? Because of Vince McMahon. Because he keeps like talking him into like sticking around, changing his schedule, changing his work style. This was, I'm sure, heartbreaking for him to do, to finally convince himself this was happening, this is real.
Yeah. You know, and again, they mentioned it in the Last Ride, you know, his wife even mentioned, you know, what's it called, Vince could call him, and he'd like already get his stuff packed, ready to fly out the next day for him, you know. That's how loyal The Undertaker is. And that's why Vince values him so much, you know, because like I mentioned, when everyone else was leaving, all his top stars, Hogan, Savage, Piper, Hart, Nash, Hall, all these top guys were leaving him for the competitors. The Undertaker was the one that stayed all those years, you know?
Yeah, agreed.
He never once left. He was always Mr. Reliable for him, you know? And so that's why it's so hard for Vince to say goodbye to him, because this is his last, you know, in a sense, reliable guy. This was the guy that was truly loyal to him.
Yeah. Agreed. So, after that, Vince McMahon, you know, one last time introduces The Undertaker. And what happens next, Jack?
A really long entrance.
Did you count how long it was?
No, but like I was kind of trying to go based off the song because I was like, I know there's certain points in the song where they stop it, but like it got to the point where he was standing in the ring and they still continued the song for like another 3 minutes, and I was like,
agreed.
This should have ended at some point.
Was it wild to see those like, what'd you call them? Those pillars. They like run electricity through them, and the buzz was playing the Undertaker music.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the hum of like those Tesla coils.
Yeah.
It was weird and interesting.
Yeah.
I thought it was neat. A guy who's had more special entrances than literally anybody in the company, you know, they certainly had their work cut out for them to top any of them.
Yeah. But so then he comes out and he just, again, stays in kayfabe and he gives that speech, you know. He thanks the fans for all the support, you know, and he tells them, you know, I've laid a lot of people to rest, but now it's time for the Undertaker to rest in peace, you know.
That was good. That was a good line.
Yeah. And again, it's such a good thing, but I just want to slip in a small complaint. Why the fan noise? Why funnel in that edited fan noise?
You know what? I know why, but how much better? Wouldn't it have been incredible for, like, because there's a ton of stuff happening on the screens. We don't see any fans on the screens anymore like we've seen all night. It's purple, cemetery, atmosphere. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But it would have been absolutely incredible if every single light was off. There was one spotlight in the middle of the ring, and the Undertaker, with no sound, is performing a monologue, you know, a Shakespearean monologue.
Yeah.
Now it is time for the Undertaker to rest in peace. And then spotlight goes out, copyright logo in the bottom right hand corner. That's how it should have gone.
Yeah. But so I just really love that speech he gives, you know. And it was very short, but, you know, he thanks the fans, he thanks everything. He's finally retires, and they give him that last walkout. They give him that last fist raise in the air.
That's right.
As he disappears into the mist and the fog, you know, and you see him walk off in the copyright logo. And because of TakeOver Chicago, when I saw that copyright logo, I told myself, no, they're still going to do one more thing. Like, I was weary.
I didn't let up at all until Stone Cold started talking in his podcast.
Yeah, and when it happened, I know a lot of fans, you know, were trying to say, oh, do something with The Fiend, do something with Sting or something. When I finally saw it faded to black and Stone Cold popped up, the only words I said were, finally. Because I don't know if you can remember this far back, we brought it up freshman year around like after like WrestleMania 32 had happened, you know. We even said it, you know, people thought, you know, Undertaker should get one last ride of final Royal Rumble, final WrestleMania, final SummerSlam, final Survivor Series, but back then we agreed, guess what, it's in Dallas, he should retire there, you know. But you know, it's been that battle ever since the streak lost of he needs to hang it up. He needs to stop coming back. And so when I finally saw it faded to black and it was truly the end, all I said was, you know what? Finally, thank you, Taker. You very much deserve to just retire in peace. And you shouldn't let anything tempt you back. Because as much as the fans want to see something, as much as you yourself want to see something final, you know, and, you know, the wrestlers themselves want to say like they have won a final match. And in my opinion, I thought something was going to go down because in my eyes, I know the company. I was like, there's no way they're going to let him retire with no fans in attendance. There's no way they're not going to find a way to make money off of this.
Right.
I had all that stuff going in my head. And once I saw it faded to black and he retired, I just said, finally.
I waited for about, I don't know how long that Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast is. It might be like an hour and a half. It was actually really long. Maybe it was an hour. But, he came to a point, I think Stone Cold wanted him to say, I'm happy, I'm done, goodbye, but he wouldn't. He really wouldn't. He's still the same guy that you saw in the Last Ride documentary. But one thing he has gotten better at saying is, I can't. And just like Drew McIntyre getting choked out against his will, even though Vince McMahon is ready to call that guy and ask, well, how about one more? I think Undertaker's in a place where he's not in a position to say, yes, anything you want. I think he's in a new position to say, I can't even if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
Yeah, but...
So, you know what? I'm glad you have some closure because I'm waiting for that Hall of Fame ring to be on that guy's hand before I let up and I exhale.
Yeah. But, so with about 40 seconds left, we'll just wrap it up here, you know. Thank you, Taker, for all the years you've given this business. And I've been your host, Jack.
I've been Mr. Solis. Hashtag thank you, Taker.
And we thank you for joining us for another episode of the Rule 34 podcast. And remember, if it exists, we have an opinion on it. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you in the next episode.